Hi, this is a bit of an information sharing session. So I'm going to go through all of the plans that we've got for reopening school safely in September. Now, some of it is for parents and some of it is for children. There'll be bits that will be of interest to absolutely everybody, and there'll be bits of it that you think, actually, yeah, I need to go over that with the kids and watch a little bit again and again. So that's why I'm recording it as a video, so that you can go back over stuff and you can rewatch. And particularly, you might be interested in seeing this now because it's July and you want to know what the plans are, but also you'll have a few weeks off school and then be thinking about the end of August, right, what's it going to look like when the kids go back in September? And that's when this video might be useful again, so you can watch it again and again. In addition to that, I'm also well aware you might not want to listen to me talk at all. So this presentation that I'm going to use in the video today is going to be available on the school website as a download, and it's going to be on the front page of the school website. There's a folder with all of the bits of resources that we've used during the lockdown in there, so that you can use that as well. And then hopefully you will all feel completely ready to come back to school in September. Now, for the children, the teachers are going to be doing something similar to this, but they're going to be doing that on the first day that we come back, on the inset day on the 1st of September. But the classrooms won't be ready by the end of the week, so we can't do that now. So boys and girls, if you're watching this, your teachers will show you what your classroom is going to look like. And for some of you who've been in school, the children who are in reception at the moment or in year one, you know what school looks like. For the older children who haven't been in school for a while, there's been some changes. Things look a little bit different with things like hand sanitizer right the way throughout school and desks in different places and stuff like that. And your teachers will show you those sorts of things. They'll talk to you about where you're going to come into the building, where you're going to leave from, and all of those sorts of things, so that you'll feel a little bit more comfortable when you come into school as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I am going to share this presentation with you. Okay. Let's start at the very beginning, because it's a very good place to start, apparently. So here we go. Safe reopening of school in September 20. What we're going to do is we are going to have a look at information from this website, which is the latest DfE information. So everything is up to date according to that. And if you want to go read that yourself, then there's a lot of stuff to go through. Okay, right. So things that we're going to cover during this, some of the stuff is taken direct from DfE. Some of it is bits that I've added in to explain how we're going to do this. So we're going to look at the system of controls to prevent the spread of the virus, and then what we're going to do in response to any infection. We're going to look at the measures in the classroom and around the building more widely, so the things that we're changing so that we can put that system of controls in place. How we're dealing with after-school clubs, multiflex and acorns, because I'm aware that's a big issue for a lot of people. The planned curriculum, what teaching is actually going to look like, and how we're tackling the teaching so that we can give the children the best opportunity to catch up with their learning. Pupil well-being and support, and what we're doing to make sure that the children are mentally, emotionally well. And then right at the very end is the nitty-gritty of all the details with changes to the timetable and start at the end of the day. And we'll look at how we've planned for all of those things as well. So, system of controls, prevention. Now, these numbers, 1 to 4, really, really important. Okay, so minimizing contact with individuals who are unwell. So everybody knows that you don't come into school if you've got symptoms of COVID. Cleaning hands thoroughly more often than usual, respiratory hygiene, catch it, bin it, kill it approach, and enhanced cleaning. So we've got hand sanitizer pretty much by every door in school, so that you can use that every time you go through a door. And children will be encouraged to do that regularly throughout the day, particularly before and after going to the toilet, changes, transition points during the day. So when they're moving from one room to the next at the end of a playtime, and also before and after eating. We've got lidded bins in all of the classrooms and plenty of tissues for the catch it, bin it, kill it approach, so that we're trapping the bacteria in a bin, and the bins are emptied twice a day. And the enhanced cleaning with more frequently touched surfaces. We've got additional cleaning staff who are in throughout the day, and we're cleaning all of those extra points 5 times a day, in line with the current guidance. Now, number 5, it says must be properly considered and measures that are put in place that suit particular circumstances. Okay, so I'll talk a little bit more about what we're doing around that one in a little bit more detail. And then 6, wear PPE where necessary. So that's going to be in the case where we're dealing with intimate care for children if necessary. And if we're providing first aid and we're having to be up close to a child, or particularly wearing PPE if we've got children who are symptomatic with COVID. So, minimizing contacts and mixing between people. Okay, so we all know about that one, about social distancing. The government are very clear that if schools do all of these things, children do not have to social distance. So they do not have to keep 1 meter distance from each other. Okay, so that is absolute set by the government in black and white. If we put together all of those things from numbers 1 to 4, the government position is that it is safe for children not to distance in that way. We will be encouraging them to do it though, and it won't be all the time. And I'll come on to how that bit works in a moment. So we're reducing the number of contacts between children and staff, and we keep the children separate in bubbles and maintain distance between individuals where possible, where the children have the ability to distance. Younger children don't have the ability to distance and they don't understand it, and it's upsetting. So we're not going to push them to do it. We will be able to keep the children separate because those classes, those bubbles, will not come into contact with each other, and you'll see throughout the presentation how that works and how the children will be kept separate in what they're doing. So each class is one bubble, and each class will be kept separate. The reception year group of 38 will be considered as one bubble as well, and that's in line with the government guidance too. That means that there will be staggered playtimes, staggered lunch times, and so on. So those two approaches of separating groups and maintaining distance are not all or nothing, and they still bring benefits. So the children will be spread out as much as possible, but they will be sat 2 to a table as normal, but they won't be facing each other. The tables will be put in rows, and they will all be facing the front. They'll stay in their class groups, but there might be in wider groups, particularly when multiflex are in to do PE. This academic year, the kids have been in groups of 45 with the multiflex staff, and that will continue, but they will be separated, so they will have 30 on one side of the hall and 15 on the other from the 2 class groups. For wraparound care, Acorns will be splitting into smaller groups, but they will still be splitting into groups, and they will be mixing between the bubbles. And we are reducing the contacts, but there will still be some contact between the children. So we're still keeping them partially separate, as it says here. And the governments are also clear that teachers and other staff can operate across different classes and year groups, which means that our teaching assistants who work in different classes, our teachers who deliver PPA cover, can work between the different year groups as well. Okay. The next stage of this is response to any infection, and largely this is led by the test and trace team and the public health team. So we have to engage with test and trace, manage any confirmed cases in the school community, and contain any outbreak by following the protection team advice. So pretty much the government will tell us exactly what to do. So as soon as we're aware that somebody's tested positive, and obviously we need your support with that, because if somebody in your household tests positive, we need to know immediately. Then the team will also contact the schools if they become aware that somebody's tested positive, and there's the risk assessment that will confirm who they've been in close contact with. So we keep registers, Acorns keep registers, and we will also keep a track of individuals that teachers who have been in close contact with, so that we can identify those people straight away, and school and the test and trace team will be in touch with them to let them know that they need to go get a test. So that idea of close contact is here. Okay, so direct close contacts is face-to-face with an infected individual for a length of time within a metre, including coughed on, face-to-face conversation, or unprotected physical skin-to-skin contact. Proximity contact, which is 1 to 2 metres for more than 15 minutes with an infected individual and travelling in a small vehicle. Okay, so what we will do is we will keep a track of those people who the adults in school are in contact with, and if there is somebody who has tested positive, we will basically close down the bubble so that nobody from the bubble will come back into school and everybody will get tested. Okay. Household members of those contacts who are sent home don't need to self-isolate unless the child, young person, or staff member who's self-isolating subsequently develops symptoms. So if the test delivers if someone in a class that's been asked to self-isolate develops symptoms themselves within the 14-day isolation period, you follow the stay-at-home guidance, get a test. If it's negative, you stay in isolation because the COVID-19 virus could develop. If it's positive, you tell school straight away and then isolate for 7 days. Okay, and all of this will be explained again by the test and trace team who contact you and in the letter that gets sent out by school, which is provided to us by Public Health. Right, other things that we're doing in the classroom. Okay, so whereas before children would all be sat together on the carpet, that won't be happening. There will be whole class inputs, but the children won't be sat together on the carpet because they're all squashed up together. So sessions will be taught from the front by the teacher standing at the front of the room, and that's set up to give the teacher clear distance between them and the children. Okay, where necessary, we will be close to the children if it's necessary, particularly around emotional health and well-being. But when teaching, the teacher will be at the front of the room and not sat on the carpet with the children. So the children, as I said, will be sitting facing the front in rows and two to a desk. As I said, the thinking behind that one is that if two children are sat opposite each other, then they're breathing at each other. So desks, as we've had them traditionally in groups of 4 or 6 where they're facing each other, won't be happening. They're in rows so that the children aren't breathing on each other. And in an ideal world, we won't work within 1 metre of a child unless it's absolutely necessary. And then wherever possible, that support will be delivered from the side so that we've not got people breathing on each other. Right, other measures. So no gatherings of more than 30 children. PE with multiflex, as I said, in distance year groups of 45, and PE will be outdoors as much as possible. It will only be indoors if it's raining. Okay, so that is something to bear in mind. For the colder weather, we will still be going outside for PE. Okay, we won't be having children together in the hall, so assemblies will continue to be posted on YouTube to be watched in the classroom. And at the moment, there are no whole school events such as harvest and Christmas services, and that also sadly includes nativity plays. If the guidance changes on that one, then we will reconsider things, but the government are very clear that we have to focus first and foremost on catching those children up to where they need to be, because a lot of children have had a lot of time out of school, and particularly nativity plays take an awful lot of time out of the curriculum. They're very, very valuable, they're very beneficial, but it might be that we have to look at something else this year. Parents' evening and the teacher information evening will be done using Google Meet this year. So there will be an opportunity to get some kind of information from your child's class teacher in September. Last year we did the meetings where people dropped into school and teachers did presentations, but we'll be doing those on Google Meet, and we'll be recording them in the way that this is recorded, and then they'll be posted on YouTube for you. We've got staggered break and lunch times, and that will, I'll explain a little bit more about that towards the end of the presentation. And this term, and we'll review it as the guidance changes, there will be no indoor PTA events, which means that we can't do Freaky Friday discos and film nights and things like that. Okay. Right, equipment in school. Children will have their own resources in named plastic wallets at their seats. Anything shared, and that means anything from paintbrushes to foam javelins to tennis rackets, is cleaned in hot soapy water with washing up liquid at the end of the day, and the teacher will supervise the children doing it where it's appropriate for them. We'll use disinfectant spray where necessary, and there will be a quarantine box in each classroom. So if there's things that are brought in, they can be put in that quarantine box for 72 hours to allow the virus time to die off. And then that means that we'll be able to take it out after that 72-hour period. And I'll talk a little bit more about sending things home and homework later on. New playground equipment. Normally, we have playground equipment that's shared between all of the children. So we've just bought a new set of playground equipment for every class with a box to store it in, and that will be washed at the end of each day. But each class will have its own set of playground equipment so that we're minimizing any chance of infection between the bubbles by passing things on the surface of the equipment. For now, the outdoor play equipment won't be used. Right. Other school-based issues. Excuse me. We need to look at transport, and one of the things we'll be working on in September is initiatives to encourage people to walk to school wherever possible. We need to reduce cars, the number of people on the car park, because we're going to have more people coming in with the staggered starts. And because of that, we also need to look at the possibility of a walking bus. So one of the things I will be asking for in September is volunteers to see if anybody can run some kind of walking bus scheme for us. If you are one of those wonderful, wonderful people who volunteer in school, we are so grateful for your help, and it's been really a shame that we can't have you in school this term. From September, you can continue working in school. You can resume being in school. So you need to get in touch with your child's class teacher and use those class email addresses. So oaks@winchemcp or hedgehogs@winchemcp. If you're coming into school, you will be asked to keep any mixing across groups to a minimum and staying 2 meters from everybody. And then whatever equipment is used by the volunteers is cleaned immediately afterwards, so that we can really reduce the risk of infection from home. School kitchens will be reopened for lunches, and we'll be doing hot and cold lunch bags that can be eaten in the classrooms where necessary. And I'll talk a little bit about how we're managing lunch times afterwards. The menus will be available on the school website. They are different because rather than the children going to the serving hatch in the kitchen and taking a tray, which basically means that every child is breathing over the food, they'll be given a bag with some hot food in it. It might be like a burger in a bun or a hot dog or something like that. There won't be a snack trolley. We won't be offering snack from September onwards. So children will need to be completely independent with healthy snacks from home. Please, 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 healthy snacks. I don't want chocolates, crisps in school at snack time. And also, we need to remember that as a school, we need to be nut-free for children with allergies. Children will use sanitizer before and after eating, and they just need to make sure that they are completely independent. So staff won't be able to open packets, drinks, and that sort of thing. So whatever snack you send in needs to be something your child can access completely independently. And I know it sounds a bit daft, but if you're not sure, practice it over the holidays. Okay, out of school clubs, multiflex, Acorns. We won't be running after school clubs for the autumn term, apart from our school homework club and multiflex. And multiflex will continue, but the teachers will supervise children getting changed rather than it happening anywhere else, and take them over to the hall, and children will be spread apart as much as possible to avoid mixing the bubbles. Acorns are planning to reopen from Monday the 7th of September, and Kim is putting stuff out to parents as soon as the plans are finalised, so that you can start to book those places as well. Right, planned curriculum. Okay, so we are looking at recovery. Okay, that recovery is from the absence in learning, the gaps in learning that have cropped up over the summer term, and we're looking to catch people up to where they needed to be. So our system works that we take a child at the end of reception, and we say, right, they were at the expected standard at the end of reception, so therefore they need to be at the expected standard by the end of year 6 or better. Okay. We can't give a judgment for the end of the academic year 1920 because the curriculum hasn't been covered. So we need to fill the gaps from this year and then move forward into next year as well. So we can't spend all of the autumn term going over summer term learning, because then children will never be caught up. There will always be a term behind. So we're doing things as fast as we can and as thoroughly as we can to make sure that we're plugging the gaps, but also that we are covering the content that we need to teach for the academic year the children are in. So our main focus for the autumn term is going to be English, maths, PHSE to talk about well-being, and PE. Okay, and PE, because a lot of children will have spent a lot of time in lockdown, only going out for a bit of exercise once a day, and even then that might be just a walk with the family. So children will not be nearly as physically fit as they have been previously. So there's going to be a lot of time spent on physical well-being and fitness. Our topic work, so the foundation subjects, science, history, geography, will be taught through English and Maths for Autumn 1. And the teachers are given that flexibility. So if they plan a geography lesson for the afternoon, which is a lot of writing, to really hone in on those writing skills, and they find out there's a range of children who are really stressed at coming back into school or upset or whatever, there's the flexibility to stop the geography and say, no, do you know what, we're dealing with this right now, so that we can concentrate on the children's emotional needs. And there's elements of well-being right the way throughout the day. And we've done a lot of CPD, lots of professional development around trauma recovery and how to come back from this sort of problem. And I'll go through a little bit more of that with you further on. So we've got well-being planned carefully throughout the day, not just an ad hoc thing. Right, our English. So we'll be using planning from the summer term from the year group below. So a child who is going into year 5 will be using objectives from year 4 so that we can consolidate those year 4 objectives, but with a focus on the year 5 objectives as well. Everybody in the autumn term will be planning using high quality texts with a Black Lives Matter theme for the whole school. So one of the examples is the Barack Obama book of the I Sing, and you've got fantastic illustrations, fantastic language, really engaging themes for all the children, and it's really current and up to date as well. But the planning that we've brought in really is a recovery scheme focusing on consolidating the previous year and pushing forward into to the next year group. There's going to be a real focus on reading. Book club is going to be really, really important because we don't have to quarantine any books that come into school. So I want everybody to really engage with the online learning as much as possible because it's going to be an awful lot easier moving forward. We'll have additional, it says there twice, additional phonics sessions for Key Stage 1 each week as well. And in the same way, we'll be putting in extra bits of work, so extra spelling, extra maths, into the afternoon sessions. Now that all sounds very dry and uninspiring, but it's going to be done in a really carefully planned way and really exciting. So the afternoon sessions are going to be geography based or history based. So for example, we might be looking at coordinates in a geography lesson and map work, but we're reading coordinates. So we've got that maths planning, and that's carefully planned out. We're not going to be making the children sit and write or sit and read something that's really dull and boring all day long. Okay, it's going to be done very carefully because we also know that if the children are not happy, they won't learn anyway. And if we tell the children to sit and write all day, they will be miserable and then behavior will be terrible. And that's not how we work at Winchen. So it's about motivating and engaging the children through a broad curriculum as much as is possible. For maths, there's been an analysis completed by the current class teacher for the class, what's been covered well and what's been covered during lockdown, because we know those two things can be a bit different. And then we've had one-to-one professional development coaching for the next year's class teachers to support with creating a bespoke maths plan for the autumn term. So the teachers have had support and are continuing to have support for planning the maths to make sure they're making the most of the opportunities available, using the latest government guidance and documents that the government have released, so that we can make sure that we hit the key objectives really hard and that we're focusing our teaching on the really important bits that are going to help the children to move forward. And wherever possible, we're going to do additional sessions with a cross-curricular focus, like I mentioned. So it might be a geography lesson on coordinates, or it might be a history lesson using statistics to do with population graphs over time and things like that. So there's lots and lots of cross-curricular learning to make sure that curriculum is bright and engaging and interesting for the kids. Okay. Right, our planned curriculum. All homework is going to be set and marked using Google Classroom. We're not sending homework, sending books home, okay, because there's hygiene issues around the possibility of germs being passed on the books from home and school. So everything will be done online. Feedback to be as regularly as possible by addressing issues straight away. So when we mark books, there's no point, just as a general principle, there's no point in putting on 30 children's books. Oh, you didn't quite get this, we'll have a look at it again tomorrow. You just look at it again tomorrow and you reshape the next day's lesson according to whatever the issue is that you found. We've been using stamps in the books that you stamp on the books and it says, well done, you've achieved your objective, or you need to do a bit more work to achieve your objective, things like that. But and that's to avoid the teachers having to write in the books and putting their hands where the children's hands might have been. But we will be starting to put formative comments in the books where necessary, but kind of minimizing what we're doing with the children's books as much as possible, just to reduce those possibilities of infection. Okay, the government have produced a new relationships and health education scheme, and it's compulsory from September but delayed. So all schools are expected to engage with it from summer 21. One of the big changes is that there is specific teaching about mental health, and we'll be using the new scheme that we brought in called Heart Smart in the autumn term to do with mental health to support the children's well-being. And there will be information to follow in the autumn term because we have to consult about relationships and health education. So we'll be sharing the teaching material with you so that you can see, but we'll be using that mental health work because we'll be teaching explicitly about mental health and what it means to have good mental health. Okay. As I said, the topic work is going to have a reading and writing focus and maths to reinforce key skills. So the examples I've given might be writing a set of directions for moving around a map, or a research project with an outcome like a postcard or a leaflet about a country. And also when we're doing whole class reading, that will be topic linked as well, so that the children are engaged in their learning. So as I've said many times when I've shown parents around school and things like that, one of the things that we very strongly believe at Winchen is about engaging children through a really high quality text, and that will continue. It's not going to be any different. Our teaching is not going to be dry and dull and uninteresting. It's still going to continue to be engaging and interesting, following the global goals, following our global learning priorities, because that is at the heart of what we do, because that is what engages and interests the children. So that's going to remain. Okay. Remote education. We still need to be ready for remote education. If somebody catches COVID-19 in one of the bubbles, we have to close that bubble down, but we have to be able to provide online learning from the next day, because only one of those children will be ill. So we need to be able to provide education for the remaining 14 children, or 29 children now. So our teachers' day-to-day planning is going to be a format that can be put straight into Google Drive. Google Classroom, and we'll be using the Google tools so that we can start teaching. Now, it could be that teachers will be using Jamboard, an interactive whiteboard facility, which I've been using in some of the assemblies I've done, or Google Meet. We might be using other online resources. There's been a lot of success using online tutorials from YouTube with lessons in how to do perspective drawings in art, for example. So some of the education will be led by the teachers, and some of it will be led through those online tutorials as well. But we will be ready for remote education from day one of a new lockdown, if it happens, whether that's just a bubble or the whole school or the whole town, heaven forbid, so that we're ready just in case. If you don't have the access to the Google Classroom at the moment because your child hasn't been using it, so they might be in nursery or whatever, then we'll make sure those passwords are reissued to you. And this is the sort of thing that you might see online, and you might have seen that already online throughout the lockdown period, where that gets put on for the children, and this will be shared with the kids at the start of each day in school. So we've been using visual timetables with the children for a good year or so, because it just helps children in terms of their understanding of the day and their routine. But we'll continue with something like this, and that will be the teacher's planning. So that can just be dropped into Google Classroom, ready for lockdown just in case. Right, PE, physical activity in school. It's really important. We've got to get the kids active. We've got to get everybody fit and healthy again. So as I said, Multiflex will take the whole year group. When the kids are doing PE, Children should come into school wearing PE kits and a school jumper, so leggings or joggers on a cold day, just to reduce the amount of stuff that's being brought into school. And that also maximizes the amount of time that they can spend doing PE, because they're not spending however long getting changed as well. All PE is going to be outdoors unless it's raining. So if it's cold weather, get wrapped up for it. The reason for being outdoors is because there is less chance of the virus being spread outside, because basically the wind will blow those airborne particles away. Each class will have their own equipment. In the autumn term, we'll be looking at a kind of personal best type scheme. So a lot of individual achievements, because contact sports aren't happening at the moment, and any equipment is cleaned in soapy water after use. And as well as that, all classes will have a physical activity as part of the day, and usually at the beginning. And the staff will be joining into model good practice and engagement. So it might be using iMoves or Go Noodle. When I walked into one of the Year 6 bubbles today, they were all doing a street dance activity. And what we found is that that's physical movement, as I'll talk about a little bit as we go further through this, reduces stress. Because movement helps the children to relieve that stress and relieve that anxiety. So when they come into school, they're ready to learn, having done that physical activity. And also it just develops fitness. Okay, pupil wellbeing and support. There's a range of ways that we're looking at this, and there's an awful lot of work that we've done around it. So we've got the Let's Begin Again PHSE scheme, personal health, social education. And that's been used with the children who've been in school in the summer term, and we'll use that with all of the children in the autumn term, because if it was used in the Year 3 plans or the Year 1 plans we used in Year 1, then there'll be a different set of plans used in Year 2. So that even though the children have experienced it, they'll be looking at a different year group's work. Everybody has responded to the pandemic differently, adults included, and everybody is going to need some level of individual support, and that will be provided by the teacher first and foremost. So just if a child was struggling in a maths lesson, the teacher would differentiate the lesson and provide support for the child. If a child is struggling in school, then the teacher will be the first person to provide that support. And there's expert support and advice in-house from those of us who are experienced in dealing with different degrees of trauma. But also we've been working with the New Ways of Working trauma recovery team at Cheshire West and Chester. And we've taken expert advice from them, and we've got a range of resources that we can tap into there as well. So to put some meat on the bones for that, we have been using some trauma recovery training from the New Ways of Working team. And there are some key principles that are underpinning everything that we do. So the first is predictability. So the children knowing what is going on around them. And certainly I've had conversations with people even today about how their children are feeling and how they are beginning to struggle a little bit. And some of these principles really help if your children are a bit uneasy about going outside, or might be a bit uncertain about going into shops, or maybe when you disappear off to work are worried about you because they think there's a chance of you catching COVID-19. So these principles are really important, and they can, whilst the things that I'm going to talk about are key for us in school, they can easily be adapted to life at home as well. So predictability, we've got a visual timetable routine for everybody to see, like the example I showed you with the table, with the activities. Those are written on the boards in the classrooms so that children can see what's coming up next, and they've got that sense of familiarity and routine. So there's more detail than usual. We normally have little picture icons that explain it's a geography lesson or an English lesson, but there's an explanation of the day and the learning objective, so the children know that it's an English lesson and they're going to be learning fronted adverbials, and they're going to be doing a piece of writing using fronted adverbials. And that's shared at the start of the day. We've got a limited number of unexpected changes, so we're, as much as possible, we're keeping in that same routine, and wherever possible, where we do know there's a change to it, we're sharing it in advance so the children don't get a big shock. And it's about feeling that school is somewhere safe and comfortable, because at the moment things that are predictable are comfortable for us because we've had so many changes in our lives. So trying to keep that sense of predictability. The next one, as I mentioned, is mobility to overcome fear. So we've seen children who are coming into school with very high levels of anxiety and very, very tense and stressed. And that's particularly the case with some of the older children who understand a little bit more about what's going on and are aware of the dangers and the risks and take on some of those anxieties. So we're using services like iMoves and Go Noodle and Cosmic Kids, and we're doing movement at the start of every day, and that will continue in September. There'll be movements at the start of every day to get the kids engaged. Now, it gets the blood flowing, and you know what it's like when you're sluggish in the morning and you're not quite with it. Gets you moving and makes you feel good about yourself, so it wakes you up, but also it calms you down. Okay, children have a bit of fun, have a bit of laughter. They see their head teacher, they see their teacher or teaching assistant trying to, as I say, not doing street dance, trying to do street dance in my case, and it gives them a laugh. So these sorts of things are really important because laughter, that sense of fun, is really, really key for relieving stress. And we will be giving the children regular movement breaks throughout the day as well. Okay. So those movement breaks will be used to alleviate the stress where the children are beginning to feel slightly more hunched up, slightly more tense, and they'll give the children a bit of a break to run around and move. Connection with others. We've talked about the PHSE scheme and the Begin Again scheme. So that will be about talking to other people, about normalizing their experiences, because everybody's experience during lockdown has been very different. Some people have done lots of schoolwork, some people have done less, some people have been out on big bike rides, some people have not done much physical activity, and it's about encouraging children to think that everything is normal, that their experiences have been normal, and that they can reconnect with other people and talk to them about those things. We'll be teaching playtime games that help the children to social distance, but also that encourage the children to play together rather than just running randomly across the playground, although we will give the chance for the children to play freely and creatively as they would do. There's time for the children to work together and to collaborate, so the children can talk about their ideas and share their thoughts and just get used to talking with each other again. And because of that, there'll be circle time sessions too. And so that they can connect with other people, there'll be daily or weekly team tasks. So that team task might be the teacher standing there on the Monday, right, by the end of the day, kids, we're going to write a newspaper report. Or by the end of the day, we'll have made a fort and we'll be playing in the fort, and we'll be knights in the fort. So everybody's got that shared idea. So everybody connects, so everybody has that same goal, and all the children will be working together as part of that team to be part of that goal, because they won't be mixing more widely on the playground. So that emphasis on the class team is going to be really key to bring the children back together as a group. Right, being grounded in bodies and minds, knowing exactly where they are and having that sense of awareness and grounding as a principle, and particularly using mindfulness as part of everyday teaching. So even if it's just a few minutes taken out of the day, so we can kind of recenter, refocus people, and it might be using a grounding activity like listing to yourself 5 things that you can touch, 4 things that you can hear, 3 things that you can smell, and so on. Or it might be simple breathing exercises, and the one I've used in assemblies with finger breathing is where you breathe in, out, in, out, in, out, and breathe like that. And just a couple of minutes to do that, just to refocus the children, calm them. And again, we've been using My Smiling Mind in school, which is a mindfulness website and app that you can access from home as well, for led guided mindfulness sessions too, so that the children are taught that opportunity to calm themselves down, so their mind isn't flitting all over the place, their bodies don't feel tense, they don't feel anxious, and it reduces the anxiety and makes the children feel more able to be happy and then ready to learn as well. Right, knowing where we are in time and space. I think there's so many people who've said during lockdown, I just don't know what day it is. And we've all been the same in that way. So making sure that we know what's going on. So the visual timetable I talked about. Planning for the week with the whole class outcome, so your daily and weekly task. Regular events. We won't have the same regular events, so the children won't be coming into the hall on a Friday for a celebration assembly. But we will be having regular events like assemblies, and it's about the routine and the grounding activities and mindfulness to take notice of surroundings and feelings. And there's the overlap there that you can see where these things fit into different sorts of categories. So that taking notice of surroundings and feelings is really, really important, because like I said, with the grounding activity, 5 things that you can see, you're looking around and you're noticing them. And that focus on noticing stops you from focusing on your fast heart rate where you're really anxious, or your fear of bumping into somebody else, and fear of catching COVID or whatever else. So taking notice as a really key thing. Felt safety. That's really, really important and is a huge thing. Okay, so it's about not just knowing that you're safe, because you can understand that there is hand gel, and you can understand that you are keeping it away from people and that you're sitting next to somebody, not facing them. But actually, it's not until you properly feel it that you start to feel safe and you get that sense of safety. So we'll be following all of the DfE hygiene regulations, particularly use of sanitizer coming into a room. We'll be using the ebook teaching materials again, and we've been doing them with children lots. And also about looking at the sense of routine so that children feel safe. And we'll be talking to the children about the things that we're doing to keep them safe. And certainly the conversations I've had with parents recently, that's been really, really key. It's not about sitting your child down and saying, right, come on, we're going to sit and we're going to talk and go through our hygiene principles. But it's about going into a shop and saying, right, you put your hand gel on, we're good to go now, and dropping those things into conversation time and time again. So you're in the car on the way to Asda saying, right, we're going to park here, and then it's okay to go down the escalator because that middle escalator is blocked off, so we're going to be distant from somebody else. So you talk the child through it, and you just drop it in as a little thing rather than a big hour-long conversation. And you keep on doing that, keep on reinforcing it. And again, when you come at the end of the day, oh, wasn't that a good shopping trip? Or wasn't that a really nice trip to the park? Because we did all of these things and everything was okay. So you keep reinforcing that, and you end up with that sense of felt safety. And that's what we'll be doing, particularly with the routines in school. So we'll be saying, right, you've had a really good day. You've had your hand sanitizer on right the way throughout the day. We've washed all the equipment, so that's nice and clean and ready for tomorrow. You've got your own stuff on your desks. That's ready for tomorrow. And we know it's going to be cleaned. The classroom's going to be ready for us. So we've got all of those things that help the children over time to get that sense of felt safety. And like I say, it's about the drip feeding. That's really, really important, because as adults, we can take in a huge amount of information in one go like this. I'm aware I'm giving you a lot of information in one go, but children need that drip feeding. That's really, really important. So real constant reassurance that they are safe in this. And even if you don't feel it yourself, because as adults, we go through different levels of anxiety and different anxieties with new situations, even if you don't feel it in yourself, make sure you tell your children that that's how they feel, and tell the children you are safe because, and do your best to hide the way that you're feeling, because the kids pick up on it. Okay. Right, sense of purpose. Why are the children coming into school? They don't want to be here, or they don't want to learn. They don't want to sit in the classroom and be told what to do when they could be playing on the Xbox. But the sense of purpose, they've got to know why they're coming in. They've got to know why it's key. So we've got the planning resources designed to motivate and engage, quality text-based resources to give meaning, and it's really up-to-date stuff like Black Lives Matter, and time in class to pull together to rebuild those relationships with that focus on teamwork and that team task. And the opportunities for talk in the lessons. So we're rebuilding relationships and we're making links, and we're going to be really explicit about the fact that we are learning together and we are doing things together as a group and as a team. So we've got that sense of purpose. Right, okay. So this last bit is to do with all of the logistics around the start and ends of the day. and around playtimes and lunchtimes and things like that. We will still have staggered starts, and we have tried to minimize the impact on people as much as possible, and we've tried to organize it as easily as we can. So here goes. Nursery are going to go back to their 8:45 to 3:15. So 8:45 to 11:45 at the nursery entrance, as it always has been, and then 12:15 to 3:15. So we've got our two 3-hour sessions, and the nursery are just going to come to the side of the community centre as they always have. Okay. For the rest of the school, everybody is going to be dropped off either at the Church Street gate or the Lyndon's Lane gate, and we're going to be doing that by surnames, which means that if you've got children in 3 different year groups, you'll be dropping off at the same place, so you're not having to walk round from one gate to the next, because we'll have, if your surname is Adams, then the reception children whose surnames is Adams are going to be here, and then the Key Stage 1 children whose surnames Adams are going to be here, so you won't be waiting around for too long. Okay, so reception surnames A to M will be going from 8:55 till 3:20 at the Church Street gate, and you will be met by a member of staff. Okay, so one of the reception staff will come and collect you from the Church Street gate. Parents, you will leave your child with that member of staff. We don't want parents on site. Now, we appreciate that right at the very beginning, it might be difficult for children to separate from their parents, and we'll support you with that, but we really don't want people on site on top of those that we would normally have, because given 300 odd children in school, that's a lot of parents coming onto the site. It's difficult to socially distance. Reception N to Z surnames, you will be 8:55 to 3:20 at the Lyndon's Lane gate. Now, in terms of parking at Lyndon's Lane, there isn't parking there. It's very difficult. Please don't use the Spa car park. Please use the main school car park if you have to, but we'd rather you walked, and then walk round rather than blocking the road over by Lyndon's Lane. Key Stage 1 and 2, surnames A to F, you're going to be at the Church Street gate, 8:45 to 3:10. Okay, so you've still got the same length of school day. The length of the school day hasn't changed at all, but you've got 8:45 to 3:10. And Key Stage 1 and 2, N to R, your Lyndon's Lane, 8:45 to 3:10. Okay, Key Stage 1 and 2, surnames G to M, you are Church Street at 9:05 till 3:30. Okay, and Key Stage 1 and 2, surnames S to Z, you're 9:05 to 3:30 at Lyndon's Lane. Okay, now that will work if everybody is prompt and on time, and that I can't emphasize that enough. It's been a logistical nightmare sorting all of these things out. It's very, very complicated, and it will only work if everybody is on time. Okay, for drop off and for collection at the end of the day, because we've only got a very tight window where we can turn this around to get everybody there. Okay, so when this happens, the children will have a start and end of the day activity. So it might be reading, spelling, mental arithmetic, when the other half of the class aren't there. So there will be a little bit of time when the first half of the class come in, and they will go straight into that morning activity. So they'll go straight into the classrooms. They won't line up on the playground, just go straight in like we would have ordinarily done on a wet playtime day, and get on with their activity in class. And then at the end of the day, when we send half the class out, the other half who came in first, who didn't do the mental arithmetic activity, the spelling activity, will get on with that at the end of the day when we dismiss the other children. We'll have staff on the main gate to welcome the children into school, but there'll also be staff assigned to be along the path by the gate from Lyndon's Lane to the playground and by the entrance to the Key Stage 1 playground, so that we can supervise the children as they go through, so that you don't have to bring them onto the playground. And then the children will go through the classroom fire doors, so they're all going in through different entrances to the school. And it will be Hedgehog's class will go through the library door into Key Stage 2, Grasshoppers class through the blue doors into reception, and Rabbit's class will go into the courtyard room. Younger children, to begin with, can be brought onto the playgrounds only if absolutely necessary, and should walk across the playground to school on their own. So you need to say goodbye at the gates to the school. And we really need to encourage the children to be independent in this as soon as possible, because it's about minimizing the number of adults on the school site. If you've got an older sibling, then please spend the summer holiday talking to the children about walking to school and walking with that older sibling, and the older sibling taking the younger one onto the school site where the adults will take over from them, to avoid parents coming onto the site, because we want to reduce the numbers of people on site as much as possible. If you've got real issues bringing your child in, if the child's upset or distressed, then please talk to the teachers about it. Give us a ring or drop the teachers an email at that badgers@email address or foxes@Winchen CP email address, and we'll work with you to support your child coming in. We're not going to be cruel and heartless about it. We will help you to get this right for your child. Okay. Right, we will have staggered playtimes so that we can keep the children separate. We can have 3 groups outside at a time. We'll use the field wherever possible, but we'll have 1 class on the Key Stage 1 playground, and then we're going to move the red and white barriers across the playground so that we can get 2 more classes on there. So we're going to halve the Key Stage 2, the big playground. So there won't be any football for a while, because we'll have one of those areas set aside for a group of children. So we can have 90 kids out, 3 classes at any one time. Okay, so what that's going to look like then is that we'll have the children on the Key Stage 1 playground, the Key Stage 2 playground zoned, and each group will be supervised by a member of staff, 10:40 to 11 o'clock, and then 10:20 to 10:40, and 10 till 10:20, so that we've got the children going for different lengths of time and outside at different times. Okay. And the rotas are changing each week, because otherwise we know that one class will end up playing on the same area, and the children like a bit of variety in what they do. The playground equipment will be taken out by class, so each class will be responsible for their own equipment, and their teacher will take it out with them, and that avoids cross-infection with a child potentially leaving COVID germs on a ball or a tennis racket or whatever, and then passing it to the next child outside of their bubble. So we'll reduce that possibility of contamination, and that will be cleaned at the end of the day. Lunch times are going to be staggered again, and we will have children in the hall at different times, and then zoned outdoor playtime at different times as well. Okay. Our general principles are no more than 90 children in the hall at one time. So we'll have 3 classes in the hall together. And where there's more than 1 class in the hall, the children will be kept in class groups and won't mix. In the past, we've had the children having packed lunches sitting separately to the children having school dinners. Everybody in their group, so all of Dragonfly's class, will sit together. The children will wash hands or use sanitizer, and they'll be supervised doing it before and after eating. Midday assistants allocated to each class, and then they'll be taken to their zoned areas for each group to use on the playground. And that is about that. So there is an awful lot of information in there, which is why I've recorded it like this for you, so you can go back over it again and again and again and again. And also that presentation will be on the website as well, so you can have a look at that. But I strongly recommend that you watch this through a second time, particularly the important bits with your children, and talk those sorts of things through. Okay, as I said at the start, you will have a video with your class teacher where they will show you what the classroom looks like, and that will be on our YouTube page. And if you search for Winchen Primary Head, then that takes you to the YouTube videos I've been doing for assemblies over the past few months. And those videos will be on there from the 1st of September onwards in the afternoon, to give the staff time to get those videos recorded. And we'll share them all on the school Facebook page as well. The overriding message for all of this is that we will be following all of the DFE guidelines to the letter, and the school will be a safe place for the children to come back to. So for the boys and girls who are watching and who've made it all the way through, because I know I've talked for an awful lot of time, our kids, we are really, really, really looking forward to having you back in September. We can't wait to see you because it's not been the same without the children here. And there's a lot of fun activities, a lot of exciting stuff that we're going to be doing with you guys in September. Your teachers are really looking forward to seeing you. There's going to be loads of cool stuff, loads of cool books that you're going to be reading and using in class, loads of really interesting maths to do, some really exciting ideas, and we can't wait to see you. Okay, so have a good summer holiday, enjoy that, and we'll see you in September. There we go.